Hi, this is Charlie with CreatingTrance.com. Today we're going to look at FL Studio 11 Producer Edition. Right now I just have a very simple trance song setup in here, but let's take a look at the interface first. Now here on the left we have the plugin and project viewer. You can go through plugin presets, effects, generators, VST plugins. There's lots of different standard ones in here. Sytrus is kind of my favorite. It's what a lot of people use, but there are many different things that you can take a look at, even like a heavy metal guitar simulator, but we're not going to use that today. I already have a bunch of things set up here in the step sequencer, and all you really have to do to add new things is drag and drop. It's as simple as literally dragging and dropping. We're not going to use that one today though. So let's close this back up. These buttons will kind of show and hide certain elements of the interface. Now, since I'm not really going to be using this because I already have the track set up, I'm just going to go ahead and hide it. Okay, so here I have the step sequencer where I can paint in and remove rhythmic notes, whether it's using the FL Studio standard sequencer format, or if you wanted to actually pull out a piano roll per selected instrument. You can even do velocity, release, mod, pitch, shift. All of those are in here just by using these two. If you want to add a little bit of swing to the rhythm, just drag this to the left or right. It gets really crazy to the right, so I kind of have it almost in the middle here. Now the way that the step sequencer works though is that you have a lot of different sequences. Down here I just have some hi-hats going. Let's play this back. Notice I only have the pattern selected, not the song. If I were to select the song, it would play back this entire section here, which we will do in a second. Now if I go through and select a different sequence, they will all be a little bit different. Now the reason for this is it makes it a lot easier to paint things into the playlist here on the right. Before we do that though, you'll want to notice that on the left side of any of the instrument samples or plugins, you have a channel volume, panning, and then the solo, and then the mute/solo button. Muting is just a simple left click, and then solo is a right click, which will just single that one out. Okay, so the other thing is if you want to put a really advanced section in, what you do is select the appropriate instrument, close these for now, and then open up the piano roll, and then you can go in and drag this out and actually see something that you've recorded. Before you record something though, you'll want to add a new pattern. And then once you're ready, hit record, and it will paint it into the piano roll. And then from there, you can put it into the playlist. So let's talk about the playlist. Let me go back to the drum effects first though. The playlist is nice. Really the whole interface of FL Studio is nice because it's scalable, but the playlist is nice because you can make it really small or really big. Let's stretch it out a little bit so we can take a closer look. So here are the more advanced Arps that I showed earlier in the step sequencer. We also have a couple automations in here that do different things. Volume envelope, phaser with the wet and dry, a couple filter frequency movements, and a volume envelope down here at the bottom. Now with this, adding and removing sequences is very easy. Up here, like I was saying earlier, you have all of these different sections that we've created. And all you have to do is make sure that you have this the one selected that you just created. Whenever you're working in the sequencer, it should kind of follow along here on the right. But just make sure you have the right one selected. And then you can go in here and just paint any of that stuff, and then you can grab it on the top and move it around. Let's zoom this in a little bit. Now a lot of these buttons up here do different things. I I normally move between draw and paint, and then the selection tool. But also notice that the shortcut shows up on the right here. There's always a name and then a shortcut. So just try and get these keys memorized. P, B, E. It's really simple to grab a bunch of things and then move them around. It's as easy as that. You can go inside of them and then paint automations and then bend them. But we'll take a look at the automations here in a second. To remove things, it's a simple right click, whether you're on draw or paint. I normally stick with paint. If you have a mouse, you can hold down the right click button and just remove them in one row. It's pretty easy. The same thing goes for the steps here in the step sequencer. Let's go into the drum effects, play it back, and you'll see. Right click, right click, right click. It's as easy as that. You can even hold down the button and just draw a bunch in there. Let's remove these though. Okay, let's take a look at the mixer, which is down here. The thing about the mixer is that it seems pretty simple, but it's not. There's a lot going on here. Whenever you have a certain channel selected, that arms all of the other channels for sidechain and effects sending. So, for example, with the kick, let's get that loop running. With the kick, I have 3 sends going on so that I can sidechain the sound on top of another instrument. So what you do is you select the kick, right click on the send, sidechain to this track, which I've already set up, and then all you have to do is turn the send up. Normally they start at 0, and then you just want to turn it up however loud you want it to be. That's not all though. You'll have to click on the mixer channel here, and then open up the limiter, change it to a compressor, and then turn down the threshold and turn the ratio up. So if I grab the kick here and turn the send down, you'll see it change. See how it's kind of coming in down there. We aren't hearing this instrument yet, but the sidechain is working now. The other important thing to know, in the step sequencer here, everything that you add automatically goes right into the master. These you have to actually add manually, but it's really easy. For example, let's move over a little bit here to Insert 9. When you select one, all you have to do is pick an empty insert or one that's been used. You just don't want to overwrite anything, so be aware of that. And then hit Control L. This one's already been added, so I will just mute that. But that's kind of how you single each instrument or effect out in its own mixer channel, which is really nice, gives you full control. And on top of that, whenever you have one of these selected to do a send, all you have to do is select it and then turn up the send channel that you want. And inside of the send channel, you can add different effects. This is really nice for not losing the initial punch of a sound, and so on and so forth. There's panning, volume, all the standard stuff in here. This is also the solo mute button that we're all familiar with. Here we have some mixer settings. Per channel. You can bring that back. Cut it a little bit actually because of the kick drum. And then there's the master here. It always comes with a limiter, but I put a little compressor on here to kind of flatten out the kick drum because it kind of overpowers everything. All right, so let's take a step back and look at the automations here. Automations are very easy to set up. All you have to do is find any kind of knob or slider and right click on it and then create automation clip. That will add another one down here which you can play with. Kind of do anything you want. And then that's it. You can grab the ends of it and drag it out if you want to, or if you don't want it, right click and delete it. It's as simple as that. Let's zoom back out here. All right, so let's take a quick look at some of these plugins here. The Sytrus is pretty advanced. There's a lot of modulation changes you can make in here. And like I said, any button or knob you can create an automation clip out of to change things, let things evolve, close things up. But when you're in an instrument like this button here will allow you to look at presets. Now Sytrus has like 100,000 presets. They're a lot of fun to go through. This will take you days to go through, that's for sure. But we're not going to change that. This button here will also sort through the preset if you don't want to pull up the big list and you just want to go through them one by one. A lot of the samples though, when you click on them, they'll have the more basic channel settings window where you can click on it here. You can change envelope timing, lots of different things, pitch, pan, certain levels, polyphony movements if you only want to tie it down to one note or you want to allow it to do 16 notes at once. There's certain echo and delay modes kind of built in, and then the arpeggiator down here that you can turn on or off. This we will get into in a later episode though. Like I said, automation clips will help whenever you need to change something on the fly. Let's go ahead and close this up. The other thing to know about the interface is that you can really move the whole thing around here at the top. I can grab this down. I can put this over here. It's a very editable interface. So you kind of just want to find out what works for you. I'm not sure if this works for me, but we're just kind of showing off some examples. I kind of just set everything backwards, but that's okay. Whatever works for you. These buttons here kind of help focus, pattern clips, automation clips, audio clips. You'll still be able to do most of the same things regardless of what this is set on. But on top of that, it just kind of helps you line up these certain things a little easier when you're flying through the workflow. The thing with the tracks is that they don't have to be tied to a certain sequence. You can really put anything wherever you want. I just kind of try to keep things really organized in here. Let's go down to the Arps though and bring this window up where I've laid in a bunch of simple movement stuff. We'll choose a select tool. We'll grab everything. So say I just recorded this, but it's not perfect. I need it to quantize. I need it to line up. That's where this button comes in, the tools button. There's a lot of different things in here. Strum, flam, claw, limit, flip, but quantize is what we want. I don't really like to use quick quantize. It's kind of scary. It's better to go into quantize. And most of this is pretty standard, but make sure that you are setting this properly, because sometimes you'll want the duration and you just want it quantized. Normally this doesn't have a leave duration set. I like to set it on that so that the quicker blips or the longer draws are just as accurate when I let off of the key, which is the more important part of when you're quantizing notes. So you'd go in there, do that, click accept. I'm not going to do it because I already have set it. And then down here, we have automation. So down here, you can change the automation of the velocity. This is kind of an important thing, but it's pretty easy to get in there and just move it all around. You just hold down the left mouse button and draw out whatever you need, just like that. There are a lot of other things like portamento, slide that we can add in, but we will get into those a little bit later. We'll close that. The only other thing about FL Studio is MIDI input. Now, this isn't something that I can show you, but it's very simple to understand. When you have a MIDI keyboard connected, you'll probably have a little bit of latency involved with the playback. What you'll actually have to do is go into Options, Audio Settings, and change this output to the ASIO for All version 2. This most likely came with FL Studio, but if it didn't, you can Google it and download it for free. It's a very simple audio driver that deals with input and output latency. I'm not going to change it here because if I were, it would cut the audio to the feed from FL Studio. But once you're in there, once you fire this up, it will appear down here in the dock, literally instantly, and you'll be able to choose exactly the output that you want to use for FL Studio, and it will give you input and output latency. Once you're in there, though, you'll want to drag the output latency all the way to the right up to 1024. That will literally eliminate any latency you have in your MIDI keyboard, which is nice. Okay, so I'm going to change this to song, and we're going to listen to this whole mix. It's a pretty simple track, so let me just play this back here. But you'll notice whenever each instrument goes off, you'll have a level and then a certain hit as well. And then when the Silk Poly Arp comes up, you'll actually see it playing through here on the left as it hits this setting and this setting and this setting that I've painted in here. So let's sit back and listen to this mix.